Did you know a single $20 billion submarine deal just shook the US-Canada relationship, and it might change the future of defense, jobs, and even global power politics? Imagine waking up in Pittsburgh, Ohio or Virginia, expecting years of steady work in steel mills and shipyards, only to learn those contracts vanished overnight. That's exactly what thousands of American workers are facing right now. But here's the bigger question. Are tariffs protecting American jobs, or are they secretly making life harder for workers and consumers alike? Stay with me, because the answer might surprise you. In this video, we're breaking down the real story behind Canada's submarine deal, America's tariffs, and the growing economic tug-of-war that's reshaping global politics. Here's what you'll discover if you watch until the end. Why a single defense contract could spark a full-blown trade war between the US and Canada. How tariffs on steel and aluminum ripple into inflation, jobs, and your cost of living. The hidden danger for America's global influence, and how rivals like China and Russia are quietly celebrating. And finally, what this means for you as a worker, taxpayer, and consumer. So let's dive in. Here's the setup. Canada needs to replace its aging fleet of submarines. A deal worth $20 billion was on the table, and naturally US shipyards in Virginia and Connecticut were counting on the work. Jobs, steel orders, electronics, contracts, it was all lined up. But then the twist. Ottawa said no. Instead, it awarded the deal to Canadian shipyards in Halifax and Vancouver. The result, overnight, thousands of American workers, welders, engineers, factory staff were staring at empty order books. Steel mills in Ohio suddenly had no plates to roll. Electronics firms in Wisconsin saw sonar and communication systems frozen. Even small subcontractors in Missouri and Kansas felt the sting. If even America's closest ally, Canada, is refusing US contracts, what does that mean for future deals? But here's the real catch. This wasn't just about submarines, it was about tariffs. Let's break this down simply. A tariff is basically a tax on imported goods. The idea is, make foreign stuff more expensive, so domestic industries look cheaper and stay competitive. Sounds good on paper, right? Protect American jobs, keep industries alive. But here's the twist. Earlier this year, Washington slapped heavy tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. These are the very materials needed to build submarine hulls. So what did Canada do? It hit back with quotas, restrictions, and retaliation. Ottawa wasn't going to buy subs made with materials that were suddenly more expensive thanks to us tariffs. Instead, they said, we'll build them ourselves. Think of it like this. Imagine you go to the grocery store and apples suddenly cost double because of a tax. Instead of buying from your neighbor's orchard, you start growing your own. That's exactly what Canada did on a multi-billion-dollar scale. And the fallout for the US, massive. In Grattan, Connecticut, one of America's submarine hubs, union leaders are warning of layoffs within weeks. In Newport News, Virginia, facilities had already hired extra workers and rolled steel, now cancelled. And it's not just shipyards, the ripple effect is everywhere. Steel mills in Pittsburgh, empty order books, electronics factories in Wisconsin, frozen contracts, subcontractors in Kansas and Missouri, scrambling for survival. One veteran mechanic summed it up. Trump promised us jobs, Canada pulled the plug, and now we're standing on empty docks. And here's where it gets worse. Inflation. Because when production slows, costs rise. And when costs rise in defense, they often spill into civilian markets, too, like cars, airplanes, and consumer tech. Have you noticed everyday prices creeping up, even when wages aren't? Tariffs are one hidden reason why. But wait, this isn't just economics. It's politics. On Capitol Hill, Republicans are backing Trump, blaming Canada for undermining US defense and NATO. Democrats, on the other hand, say that tariffs are the real culprit. Both sides agree on one thing. America's defense industry just lost billions, and politically it's a nightmare. Trump campaigned on bringing jobs back. He told crowds from Toledo to Norfolk that defense deals would revive manufacturing towns. But now, those same towns feel betrayed. Remember, these are swing states, like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, where voters are sensitive to job promises. Could this submarine deal end up reshaping the next election? But politics aside, there's a much bigger threat here. Allies are watching. And the message is clear. Canada said no to Washington and got away with it. If Ottawa can refuse, what's stopping Germany, Japan, or even Australia from keeping defense deals at home too? For decades, the US defense industry had a monopoly. Allies bought American ships, jets, and submarines. That meant jobs in dozens of states, technology dominance, and global influence. But now, the model is cracking. And the timing couldn't be worse, because guess who's watching closely? China and Russia. China is rolling out submarines faster than ever. Russia, despite sanctions, keeps investing in next-gen naval tech. If the US loses production scale, its costs skyrocket, schedules slow down, and rivals surge ahead. And here's the part that might surprise you. This isn't just about pride. By keeping submarine production at home, Canada is also building a defense ecosystem. Think of it like Silicon Valley but for submarines. Universities, startups, research labs all working on sonar, stealth coatings, and battery systems. And here's the kicker. Those technologies often spill into civilian markets, meaning Canada isn't just building subs, it's building future industries. Meanwhile, US firms risk losing contracts, scale, and influence. Do you think Canada made the right call protecting its jobs and industry, or is it betraying its closest ally? What happens next? Washington faces three options. Plug the gap with taxpayer money, pour billions into shipyards to replace lost contracts. But that adds to the national debt. Find new buyers, maybe in Asia or the Middle East. But credibility is already damaged. Double down with more tariffs, but that could push Canada closer to Europe and away from the US entirely. None of these are easy fixes. And while politicians argue, real workers are left hanging. Steel workers in Pittsburgh, welders in Norfolk, electronics engineers in Wisconsin. Ordinary families caught in the crossfire of tariffs and trade wars. But the real danger, America's credibility. The bigger picture: for decades, allies assumed the US would always dominate defense. But now, protectionist policies are backfiring. Instead of protecting jobs, tariffs are raising material costs, sparking retaliation, and pushing allies to build independently. In other words, the US isn't just losing contracts, it's losing influence. And in a world where China is rising and Russia is testing boundaries, that's a risky position. So, let's recap. Canada kept a $20 billion submarine deal at home, blindsiding American workers. US tariffs triggered retaliation, fueling a defense and trade rift. The fallout is jobs lost, costs rising, and America's global influence under pressure. But the question now is for you. Do tariffs really protect American workers, or are they making everyday life more expensive while pushing allies away? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'll be reading them. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who cares about politics, jobs, or the economy. We'll keep tracking the battles over tariffs, defense, and global power, because these aren't just headlines. They're stories that shape your job, your wallet, and your future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.